This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
As a scientist, I can tell you that Sundays are only 24 hours long. But with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get every game every Sunday all in one place. That's upwards of 30 hours of NFL in one day. How can there be 30 hours in 24 hours, you ask? I have a theory. Magic. New users get NFL Sunday Ticket for 8 payments of $34.50 per month. Sign up at NFLSundayTicket.com. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games and commercial use. Terms and embargoes apply. Availability varies.
Welcome to 4.0 to Pro, the pickleball podcast that focuses on a single shot, tip, or strategy to improve your pickleball game with every single pocket-sized episode. Our goal is to make you better on the court every time you hear our voices.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 4.0 to Pro, your pocket-sized pickleball podcast, where we teach you a single shot or strategy every single episode. I'm Michael O'Neill here in Long Beach, California, joined by one Mircea Muraru there in rainy Boca Raton, Florida. What's up, dude?
Hello, my friend. Yeah, it's quite rainy here. Got some thunderstorms going on, so if it sounds like there's a train going by, that's actually a little bit of thunder. Nice little Florida summer afternoon. So here we are.
And it rains for 20 minutes, and then that's it, right? Kind of every afternoon.
Give it 10 minutes and the weather will change for sure.
A couple things before we jump in. Guys, if you haven't in a minute, we would love a rating and a review for the podcast. If you pop on over to either Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, if you like this show, it helps us tremendously to get ratings and reviews for the show. That's number one. Number two, we still have a few spots left for our camp in Dallas at the end of September 2025. Please, 402p.com/camp. 402p.com/camp is how you can register. And we're going to have a blast. In fact, there's a little video there with some testimonials on it from the previous camp. So, Mircea, sir, we're going to do something today that, at least as you work your way up the duper ladder, you start noticing when you do it yourself. But very often, as a coach and an instructor and obviously a high-level player, you notice this all the time on the court, especially with like lower-level players, why they're making mistakes.
I have to say that after spending the summer in Aspen and seeing a bunch of different levels, that this one mistake and correcting this mistake really made such a huge impact on consistency and shot making, really paying attention to not moving through the ball and hitting the ball, not moving forward or not moving your body up at pretty much every level made a huge difference in terms of your ability to improve over the course of sessions. And even within one session, I could see dramatic improvement if people were able to correct this one particular mistake.
Today we were playing and watching on the adjacent tennis courts, which are just across the little alley from the pickleball courts, and watching all the tennis players running and doing laps and doing footwork drills for 30 minutes. And I said to my partner, see, this is why tennis people have way better footwork than pickleball people, because they actually focus on this exact thing. I can tell you, as I have gone up in my duper, if you will, at the beginning, especially in the transition zone, I didn't even really notice when I was doing what you just said, where I'm sort of moving through the ball as I'm trying to hit it versus being solid and planted. Now, when I make a mistake, it's the first thing I think of, like, were you planted and solid? And I can think of two occasions today, one on a drive that was mid-court, mid-transition zone, or a couple steps in where I was kind of running through on a third. And then the other one, which I struggle with still to this day, a backhand volley dink where I'm on the left side and it's coming to my paddle and I lift up before I actually make contact with the ball. I don't stay down. When I mess it up and I hit the net, I go, dude, again, you were moving through the ball instead of staying totally planted on that. So I think we should touch on all of these different scenarios where you got to really be cognizant of this.
Yeah, we definitely need to go through every level of the pickleball court, from the baseline to the transition zone to the non-volley zone line, as well as volleying. But back to your point about tennis players generally do have better footwork. They're more used to concentrating on footwork as a baseline. And part of the reason that we harp on this so much is not only does it improve your consistency, but it also decreases your injury risk. So if you're balanced and stable and not moving through the ball, you are less likely to cross your legs and cross from one side to the other and stumble and be off balance. So it really decreases your injury risk. It's so funny, after playing tennis and transferring over to pickleball, when you go back to tennis, the court just seems ginormous. It feels like you're playing on a football field. Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Jinx.
Yeah.
So it feels like you're playing on a football field. And a lot of times in tennis, you're taught to move through the ball. And when tennis players transition to pickleball, that's one of the biggest mistakes that they make, is that they're trying to move through the ball. And whenever you're moving through the ball, you're decreasing your stability. You're adding that momentum to the ball on top of your backswing follow through. You're playing a small court with a hard ball and a hard paddle. Obviously, the technology has changed somewhat, so some paddles are more stiff than others. But regardless, the point remains the same, that you're adding some momentum that is not necessary. And it also gives you a lower chance to hit that sweet spot because you're moving through the ball.
Really interestingly, I think this is a really good way for people to visualize what we're talking about. In general, I think that most people, once they get the hang of it, they hit most of their serves in, unless they're going for something kind of crazy. But in general, if you're a 3-5 or 4-0 player, you could probably hit a high 90th percentile of your serves in. Do we agree on that?
Yes.
Think about the commonality of what we're talking about in relation to that shot. When people are serving, they are typically dead still, or they have amazing footwork where they're stepping sideways, they have plenty of time to get to the ball, and they're stroking through the ball while they're well planted. That is a very consistent shot for most people. Well, not a huge surprise that it's because they're super planted, they have plenty of time to get to the ball. What happens as we move closer to the non-volley zone, we don't have quite as much time to set up and take that shot. So we're running through that ball, or we're not getting our footwork dialed in as quickly as we should. So I think most of the people here have felt what it feels like to have proper footwork and a nice forward stroke of the ball on their serve.
Exactly. And in terms of the return, a lot of times we're trying to move through a return because we want to get up to the kitchen line as quickly as we can. And if it's working for you, if you're able to hit good returns while you're running through the ball during your return motion, then fine, keep doing it if you're able to dial it in. However, I do find that when you are moving through the ball, you tend to push it out a little bit further. That momentum's carrying the ball a little bit more, particularly when someone is hitting a really hard serve. When you add that momentum of your motion through the ball, that will carry it out. And you may also, again, miss that sweet spot. So if you're able to get to the spot you need to return, turn your hips and shoulders appropriately, hit your stroke stationary, and then after you hit the ball, then you start running, and then you stop again right as your opponent is about to hit the ball. I find that that's a great way to reset if you're missing a bunch of returns.
I like that first initial reaction to their serve to be a burst. Like, you see where it's going to go. Use your visuals, use your angles to get to that spot so you can really set up and get a nice, solid, smooth stroke, versus sort of slowly jogging to the area, or, maybe not quite as blatant of a power move. In racquetball, it was required. Very rarely when I played racquetball, it's very interesting. I'm just thinking of it now. Very rarely were people on the move when they hit a racquetball shot. I'm not sure why that was, but we were typically very good at bursting to the spot that we wanted to be at and being very planted by the time we hit the ball. So I think consequently footwork errors were a little lower in racquetball than in tennis or pickleball. So I do love this idea of like stop and plant and hit the ball. And there's no more time you'll have on the pickleball court than on that return to serve.
Yeah, well, I can tell you from playing squash, I can tell you what the reason is in squash and pickleball, because you have the wall there, and you're always coming back to the center.
Racquetball,
so you always
not pickleball.
I know. Oh, did I say pickleball?
You said squash and pickleball. Well, I don't want to confuse everybody.
No, I'm sorry. My bad. It's squash and racquetball.
Right.
The reason is because you have the wall, and then you're always getting back to the center to cover the next shot. So you think of yourself like on a tether towards that middle part of the court. So if you keep moving through it, you may run into the wall, or B, are not able to recover to get back to the center to cover the next shot.
By the way, if you want to see what your lungs look like on the outside of your body, play some squash, because holy Toledo.
Exactly.
One thing I want to point out is that if you end up being one of those people that has let's say a third shot drive, and you've hit a nice serve, the return is somewhat deep. This is something that I struggled with until I had a really great lesson with Derek Shear there at Los Cab, is that I was lifting up as I was hitting my drive. And it's super important, whether you hit a backhand or a forehand, that once you're down in that position where you're cocked and ready to hit the ball, you stay down throughout that stroke. You have to stay down. I was lifting up, and as we've said a billion times, anytime you add variable to a shot, you're not going to get the consistency that you want from that ball. So me staying down kept the ball like much lower and dipping more into the court. And by staying down, I mean I just kept my knees bent. I kept my shoulders at the same level that they were at, and I swung through, following through over my other shoulder. And I really found that it was kind of an instant cure to a lot of the problems I had with my drives, in that ground stroke towards the baseline.
Michael, I love that you brought that up, because that's a really important point, that it's not just running through the ball. You can also be moving by lifting up. And that's often something you see in the transition zone. But to piggyback upon your point about the drives and the third shots and maybe the fifth shots, if you're going to drive them or drop them, if you are pushed back with a deep return or a deep fourth shot volley, if you adjust your positioning and you're moving back, you want to stop and regain that posture where you're neutral or forward. And again, stay down. And it's not just with your shoulders. Like, I often find the head is the issue, meaning like people pull up their head. And I particularly notice that if I'm just, hit a drive like, 7 to 8 feet out or more, I'm pulling up with my head, and that lifts up my shoulders. So when I coach, I often tell people, just make sure you keep your head down and also your knees. So that's really what I try to focus on if I'm missing drives high, or I find that I'm missing drives, period.
One final note on this before we jump into the 900-pound gorilla, which is the transition zone. I do see, if I watch some 3-5-ish type players, sometimes they serve and they'll step a few feet into the court, and then that return comes in, kind of burns them because it lands towards their feet, towards the back baseline, and they have to move back really quickly to be able to get that ball, and that's never going to be good. They're literally moving backwards as they're trying to strike the ball. If you wonder, man, I can't seem to get a third shot down, well, sometimes it's because you've moved too far into the court and you're moving backwards as you're hitting the ball, which then skies and turns into a pretty easy put away for the people at the net.
Another good point. I think we should transition, pardon the pun, to the transition zone and talk about the importance of not moving there, because this is where you get the biggest, I think, ROI in terms of being able to correct this. And this is where I see the biggest mistake or the biggest transgressions using this particular technique of moving through the ball, where people make a lot of errors.
And I don't care if you're a 3-5 or a 7-0. I see it literally at every single level. It becomes more recognizable when you make a mistake at a higher level and you go, I was just talking to you about that today. If I miss a shot in the transition zone, if it's my third and I'm trying to do a drip or something where I'm doing a mid-speed drop drive type ball, and I have not properly stopped and planted and gotten my weight down and centered. And man, if I miss that ball 9 times out of 10, it's because I was moving through the shot. You don't remember every single time, or something happens and the ball comes at you at a weird angle. And it's just so critically important that as they are swinging, you stop and get ready to hit that next ball.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
The issue is that people feel that they need to get from the baseline to the kitchen line as quickly as possible. So they are often moving through not only their shots, but also, to your point, when their opponents are hitting the ball. And you have to make all these decisions. If someone is hitting the ball at you and you are in the transition zone, you have to decide, is their ball going in or out? Am I hitting a counter or a reset? Or am I attacking the ball? Am I hitting my forehand or backhand? Am I volleying to the right or to the left? Am I going to someone's forehand or backhand? You have to make all these decisions, and you cannot make them properly if you are moving at that time. Occasionally, you're going to get a high, fluffy ball, and you're going to poach, so that's not what we're talking about. So there are some exceptions, but you want to start by stopping and being stable right as your opponent is about to hit the ball. That way you can see and read where their ball is going to go. And secondly, let that ball come to you, hit your shot stably. Do not try to add anything to it by moving through it, because this is when you're punished the most. When you are getting attacked, usually when someone hits like a 4th or 6th shot and you're in the transition zone, you're often in trouble. So you're down in the point. When the ball's coming at you with some pace, when you try to move forward, that ball's going to either shank off your paddle, or it's going to pop up or go in the net or go out. This is really a critical step, that you stop, react, hit the ball, and then you move. We don't want you to hang out there. We don't want you to set up shop there. Once you hit the ball, ideally, you hit a good, nice reset, or perhaps a counter where your opponents are in trouble a little bit. Stop and then hit the ball.
One thing for me that is somewhat interesting is it doesn't occur as much for me when I'm facing someone who has a lethal third shot drive and it's coming at me. I know if I'm playing against a banger and they're about to rip it, I am colossally better at planting and getting ready for that ball, because it's really the only way to survive. I'm very good at hitting defensive shots against those people that are ripping it, at my torso for the third. And then all the decision I have to make is it going out, or am I going to take it, waist high and just block it back? I am very good about that. Where it gets a little sticky for me is if they have a really good drip or a drive drop, I'm trying to put myself in a better position to take that ball. If I know it's coming right at my feet, I might want to continue to advance a little bit to get the ball out of the air. But if they catch me, then I need to take it a little more behind after the bounce. And that's where it can be. That's why the shot is so good. If you're able to get that ball down by their feet, they have to make that decision. Do I stop now? Do I stop in a second? Do I need to adjust? But man, if you're on the move while that ball is going towards your feet, you're in big trouble, because there's not a lot of ways out of it.
And also, a lot of people, when they're a little bit unstable or they have to stretch for a ball, they kind of panic and keep moving through it, either backward or to the side. And I would much rather have people be a little bit unstable. So let's kind of back up. Say you're in the transition zone, someone hits a ball to your backhand and you sort of misjudge it and you get it a little bit behind you. Step back try to get it from behind you, but stop, be stable, try to reset, and then get back to neutral and then go forward. Because if you keep running through it, you're not going to be able to hit that consistently. But if you stop and are stable, even though you might be a little bit unstable or unsteady, if you're not moving, at least you have a chance to reset that ball, and you have the chance to build that base where you hit a ball in an uncomfortable spot, but you're not moving through it. You've kind of trained your brain to keep that stillness, that stability, and that will also help slow the game down for you. If you watch the best players, they look like they're methodically moving through the transition zone. Classic examples are Ben and J.W. Johnson. So Ben Johns, J.W. Johnson, you watch them move into that transition zone, they look unhurried. They look stable. They look still. They're not rushing through balls. Those are the examples that you want to follow.
Very often watching a pro match, you'll hear, watch, watch. And that means that one of the people has hit a ball that's probably a little higher or a little more attackable than they want. What you'll see from that team when they say watch, watch, is they will generally, and this isn't every single time, but they will generally leap back 2 or 3 feet, and they'll totally plant and be stable while that other team is hitting the ball typically towards their feet. They won't be on the move running back as that person's hitting the ball. That is something I see all the time in that 3-5 to 4-5 range, where you hit a bad ball and they're just retreating as the other team is hitting the ball. That's not going to go well for you. You have to stop and at least give yourself a chance to be balanced and able to go in any direction to be able to hit the ball back. This is actually a really good opportunity to try the slinky drill, I think, Mircea.
Yeah, this is the drill that I love for this particular skill set. You start off the baseline, you call it station 1, you hit about 2 or 3 balls, then you advance to the next one, which is station 2, which is about a third of the way in the transition zone. Again, 2, 3, 4 balls, ideally resets. Then you go up to station 3, which is 2/3 of the way through the transition zone. Your drilling partner is at the kitchen line, hitting you balls, ideally aggressively, and then you go back to station 2, hit a few more balls, and so on. So you kind of go back and forth, but you're not focused on rushing through each station. You're stable and still and hit multiple shots at each station.
Yeah, you're not even moving. You're not attempting to move forward or back. And I think this teaches most people is if they're able to start getting these consistent resets, and they've maybe been struggling with those, it's like, oh, this is how I am better at this because I'm focusing on just my footwork and not advancing or retreating at the same time. It's critically important.
Absolutely. Makes such a huge difference.
I mentioned earlier, Mircea, that even today, I will sometimes, if I'm on the left-hand side and somebody gives me, let's say, a knee-high ball that I can fish out of the air as a volley dink. So it's a backhand volley dink. To this day, if I don't really think of it, I will lift up on that shot. And the reason why is because I'm out a little wide. I know that if I don't hit a really good ball, that the center of the court is typically open and they're going to punish that ball. So in my mind, I'm always thinking, get back to center, get back to center, get back to center. And this is very akin to like a wide receiver trying to score the touchdown before they've actually caught the ball. So I'm like trying to hit the volley, but I'm really trying to get back to the center again. Consequently, I put the volley right into the net. I didn't stay down and stay through the ball to watch it over. Had I done that, I would have hit a very non-attackable ball because I would have been very balanced and smoothly stroking through the ball versus off balance, trying to get that way or, to my right and popping the thing up. So it was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because I didn't stay down while I hit that volley.
If you analyze the shots you miss in the transition zone, either volleys or balls off the bounce or resets, you will see that you are most often moving through the shot or you're lifting up like you talked about and not staying down. So I would encourage everyone this week, try to analyze when you miss a shot in the transition zone particularly and see that if you are moving through the ball in some fashion. And that's the first part of correcting this particular mistake is recognize it when you make it. I mean, we all do it.
I think does it really well, Mircea, is Callie Joe Smith. She stays really low when she does these volleys. Like, I don't know how tall she is, but she gets so low when she's dinking and hitting volleys out of the air and she stays really, really well planted down there. That's just the one that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure they all are really great at it.
She's about my height, I think, or close to it. And she is very athletic and really works a lot on her footwork, and it shows up in her game. So that's a good example, Michael.
So that was my dink volley situation, Mircea. But dinking in and of itself requires its own version of footwork. Not that dissimilar to what we kind of talked about on the return, where sometimes you kind of have to burst to the spot a little bit, get planted and stable as you stroke through the ball.
Yeah, it applies to every shot, and especially dinking. This is another area where you're punished quite a bit if you're running through the ball. We want you to shuffle. We want you to step to the ball. But when you get there, you want to stop, hit the ball, and then reset to shuffle back to your ready position, shuffle back to whatever position that you feel you need to. If you're pulled out wide, you want to go back more towards the middle. If you're pulled forward with a ball that is low in the kitchen, that you've stepped into the kitchen, you obviously want to pull back in case you get to hit a volley. So it's critically important that you work on that skill when you are at the kitchen as well.
And this could be any standard dinking drills, right? I just think that throughout everything we're talking about in this episode, if you go into the drill with the mindset of, I just want to be planted every single time I hit the ball, it may change your drilling a little bit, because you may not. You may be more focused on where the ball's going and where your targets are. But for the sake of this particular drill or this particular show, we'd love to have you just focus on, was my body still? Was I planted? Was I balanced as I hit it? Because I think once you get that down, you can rebuild from that point and be a much more consistent pickleball player.
One of my favorite drills for this is what we call dinking across the line. It was one of my favorite drills to do with JW and Georgia and Julie, where we would have one person on one side and either one or two people on the other side, ideally two people. That's the best way to do it, where the one person is starting on one side like the left or the right, and your drilling partners or partner are basically dinking all over. So let's just say you and I are doing this drill. Okay. I am only on the left. I'm dinking all over the kitchen, both to the right and to the left. So you're dinking and moving all the way across the court. It will put you in uncomfortable positions where you have to reach for the ball or really shuffle. And sometimes you have to cross over with your feet, which we all do at times, but you have to focus on stopping and not running through it, because I might hit the ball like one ball slightly to the right of midline, then one ball to the left of midline, then another one a little bit further to the left of midline. And I'm your drilling partner. You're hitting everything back to where I am. So if I'm on the left, you're dinking everything to the left, and I'm dinking both to the right and the left. I'm not trying to hit a winner. I'm trying to keep you moving and keep you a little bit uncomfortable. And if you have two people, it's the same principle. So the solo person that is running all over the court, they can dink it to either side, and if they get to a really uncomfortable position, they try to reset often towards the middle. That's one good way to do it. But it's called dinking across the line, one of my favorite drills to do.
I can already feel my heart rate pinning to 170 beats per minute on that one. It feels like quite a workout.
It definitely adds some cardiovascular component to the drill.
I was just kind of joking, but it dawned on me that is a real factor. If you look at my footwork game 1 to game 4, looks killer. Start looking at my footwork game 5 to game 7. Things can get a little more loosey-goosey if I am tired, or I had an issue with one of my socks today, and that was a detriment to my footwork. And I was just thinking, like, man, there's so many things that can factor into this. When you think about this game, and this game is built from the ground up, a good player is built from the ground up. The great players we see on YouTube and in all the tournaments, they make it look so effortless because they're in a spot. And the reason why they're in that spot is because they've been squatting and doing plyometric and doing all kinds of exercises to allow them to have the burst to get to the spot as quickly as possible so they can actually hit the shot they want to hit.
Absolutely. And this kind of drill and focusing on this particular skill will dramatically improve your game. Just really pay attention to it over the next week when you're out there drilling and when you're out there playing in rec games, and see how many mistakes you are making by either lifting up or running through shots, and you will see a dramatic improvement by working on this skill.
If you throw your camera up and record a couple of games and you see the mistakes you make, I'll bet you it's in the 90s. Typically is. If you watch a rec game at whatever your local courts are and you see people make mistakes, you can almost attribute every single mistake to the fact that they were moving through the ball. And I will maintain that. Guys, you've now just listened to another episode of 4-0 to Pro. Go play some pickleball, you guys, and just stand there and hit a few balls. See what it feels like. Feels like a great idea, Mircea.
You're going to see a dramatic improvement. Trust me on this. And we want to thank every one of our listeners. We appreciate everyone. We appreciate all the reviews. We appreciate all the feedback. We appreciate everyone that's coming to our camps. We want to just thank you so much for being part of our community. It means a great deal to us, and we're loving pickleball, loving what we do, love to see people get better. And this is the one big mistake that I've seen that is just such low-hanging fruit to correct and just make such a difference in everyone's game. So I hope it helps.
You took my low-hanging fruit comment. Folks, go get some low-hanging fruit. Enjoy the pickleball courts. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to 4.0 to Pro. For more tips, find us on Instagram at 4.0 to Pro. If you have a pickleball question, submit it at picklehelp.com. Now, get out there and dominate. But don't forget to have fun.